My string equals, the equal sign is the assignment operator in Python. And I indicate a string with the double quotes, hello world. And here I have assigned a string to this variable. So now I could say up here, print my string. Notice that I have gone back up to a cell, and I can re-execute that cell and obtain its output. The output is the same in this case. Let me delete this cell to make more space. I have my screen.
Let's start out by writing a Docker stack file. I've actually got one pre-prepared here in this file called mystack. So let's just open that up and see what we have in there. So the bulk of what we have here is under this services key. Applications need. What happens if you don't need one container, but you need 10 containers or 10,000 containers, right? What happens when those containers start to crash and you need to reschedule them, right? We need more management tooling beyond just launching containerized processes. In our next video, we'll have a look at configurations and at storage.
Well, the easiest thing by far is just to compute the antiderivative. And we can do that with the inverse power rule. So this is x cubed over 3 evaluated at 2 and 0. So this is 2 cubed over 3 minus 0 cubed over 3. So 8/3. When I'm talking about geometric area, I need to switch that negative to positive because I'm really talking about the area between the two axes.
Networks, so that all the containers created for those services get plugged in to the same network. We then get to leverage Docker Swarm's service discovery mechanism that it provides for its services. This is when we are then able to issue requests to one service simply by its service name, right? Its service name became DNS resolvable so that we could send traffic from one container connected to this network to all the containers, round robin load balanced.
Another thing that makes water special, and we've discussed this also, is its specific heat. You'll recall from our lecture on physics that it takes a lot of energy to heat up a kilogram of water. However, once it's heated up, it holds the heat really well. Very high surface tension. What we mean when we say this is that it has enough tension and the molecules interact with each other enough that they're actually going to support smaller insects and things like that on its surface. This is because of what we call a hydrogen bonding interaction.
Let's talk about the presentation. This can be tricky because sometimes you've ticked off all the other boxes. You have a great target, you've got your methodology down, you're targeting the people you think you are, you found the message that you really like, but what you're missing is the correct presentation. So
I think if you can save months from the whole process of creating a video, a set of videos for a course, that is a good thing.
Over the next 2 hours, we're going to give you some general cyber concepts and then the specific actionable steps that you can take to be more secure at home and at work.
Sounds good. Let's get started.
Let's do it. Passwords. We know they're not perfect, but it doesn't mean that we don't have a responsibility to make them the very best we can. At its core, a good password is made up of 3 separate concepts: complexity, length, and entropy, or a fancy math way of saying the total number of combinations. In this case, instead of the A, let's replace it with the @ sign. Instead of an E, let's replace it with a 3. And instead of the double L, we can use 2 1s. Hey Chris, how long is that going to take? It's better. What exactly is encryption? It's the process of converting raw data into another form that can only be read by a computer with a secret key or password. In other words, encryption takes a phrase like, "I like turtles," and with a little computer magic turns it into...
And we have to incorporate industry standards and best practices into our security posture. When we implement those best practices, a lot of it involves the human element.
What information people disseminate about themselves or their peers, so it becomes very difficult to manage.
In March 2016, the Gmail account of John Podesta, chairman of Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign and former White House chief of staff, was breached via a sophisticated phishing attack. The phishing attack brought to light a decade of emails that Mr. Podesta maintained in his Gmail account, a total of roughly 60,000. Access to Target's payment and security system came from network credentials stolen in a phishing attack against a third-party HVAC contractor named Fazio Mechanical Services. Earlier in 2013, the company had installed malware detection software purchased from computer security firm FireEye, the same software that's used by high-profile customers like the CIA and the Pentagon.
It's a foundation in computational thinking. The natural mode of learning is to first use, leading slowly to understanding. They're learning objects, documents, discussion springboards, and artifacts for you to engage with the material. So that's engineering computations.
Calculus class. We would really understand why this squeeze theorem is true. We're going to sketch how to apply it to a very classic limit. The limit as x goes to 0 of sine x over x. Right, so just by plugging in, I get nowhere. I get sine of 0 over 0, so 0 over 0, which is indeterminate.